What if I told you that two people starting with different amounts of money, but the same mindset could end up in almost the same place? And two people starting with the same amount, but different mindsets could end up worlds apart? Here's the thing. Mindset matters way more than the starting amount. Let's say person A has $100. Person B has 100,000. Same exact day. Same exact market opportunity. But here's where it gets interesting. Their mindsets are completely different. Person A looks at that $100 and sees a seed. Not trash. Not too small to matter. A seed. They think about planting it somewhere it can grow. Person B looks at that 100 grand and thinks, finally, I can enjoy myself. They see it as permission to spend, not as fuel to grow something bigger. So here's what person A does first. They get curious. They ask questions about investing. They read. They learn what compound interest actually is, not just the term, but how it works for them. Person B takes a different path. They know about investing, sure, but they don't feel like they need to learn the details. They're too busy managing their new lifestyle. Person A puts that $100 into a simple index fund earning about 10% a year. That's realistic. That's what the market has historically averaged. After 20 years, that $100 grows to about $673. Not bad for sitting there, right? But here's the catch. Person A doesn't stop at 100. Every month, person A finds an extra $50. 50, not 500, not 5,000. 50. They skip the coffee subscription. They pause the streaming service they weren't really watching. $50. Over 20 years, that discipline compounds too. The initial 100 plus 50 a month at 10% a year adds up to something serious. We're talking around $28,000. Now let's look at person B's 100,000. They're going to experience something different. The first year, they spend $40,000 on things that feel good but don't last. A new car depreciates. A vacation ends. Designer clothes fade. The brain gets used to the luxury pretty fast. It's called hedonic adaptation. You get comfortable at the new level. Person B still has 60,000 left. That's more than person A will ever earn in a year, probably. But person B doesn't see it as fuel. They see it as runway to maintain the lifestyle they just started. So they invest the 60,000 in something safe. A savings account at maybe 4 or 5%. That's fine. That's responsible. But they also start dipping into it. 10 grand here for a wedding gift. 12 grand there for a down payment on a rental property they don't really need. The difference between person A and person B isn't the starting amount anymore. It's what they do with money once they have it. Person A's rule is simple. Surplus gets invested, not consumed. Person B's rule is the opposite. Consumption is the goal. Once you have money, the natural thing to do is spend it and enjoy it. That's the whole point, right? Here's where it gets wild. If person A stays consistent for 30 years instead of 20, that same pattern of discipline starts to look exponential. 50 a month compounds like interest on interest. By year 30, person A's portfolio is approaching $100,000. They started with 100. They got there through consistency and time. Not luck, not inheritance, not a side hustle that took off. Just showing up every month. Meanwhile, person B, after 30 years, they've spent most of their initial 100,000. Even with conservative investing, the constant withdrawals mean the account has barely grown. They're still working. They have to. This is the real magic trick. It's not about having money. It's about what you think money is for. Is it a tool to build with, or a reward to enjoy? The rich mindset doesn't see money as scarce. Even when you start with $100, a rich mindset says, I can make this work for me. I can let it compound. I can be disciplined about it. A poor mindset, even with 100 grand, says, I finally have enough. Time to upgrade. Time to feel like I've made it. But making it and feeling like you've made it are different things. Here's the uncomfortable truth about compound growth. It favors patience. A lot of people expect wealth to show up fast. They want the 100,000 starting position, not the discipline. But compound growth doesn't care about your timeline. It cares about consistency. Person A might feel broke for years while their money is quietly multiplying. Person B feels rich immediately and then confused when the money's gone. The mindset difference shows up in how you think about risk too. Person A with $100 sees investing as learning. What's the worst that happens? I lose $100 and I keep that lesson forever. Person B with 100,000 sees investing as threatening. What if the market crashes? I could lose everything I worked for. So they play it safe, which means they also play it small. This is backwards. If you have less, you have permission to take more risk because the downside is smaller. If you have more, you should protect what you have. But people do the opposite. Person A also thinks differently about earning more money. They don't wait for a raise. They don't expect someone to hand them a higher salary. They think about ways to add value that aren't in their job description. Person B waits. They hope the company notices their hard work and pays them accordingly. Years pass. The market changes. They're still waiting. Here's something wild. If person A goes from $50 a month to $100 a month halfway through their journey, the final number doesn't just grow by 50%. It compounds at a steeper angle. That's the power of compound interest earning on compound interest. A small increase in discipline early can lead to exponential increases in wealth late. Person B doesn't get this luxury. If they suddenly decide to invest more, they're fighting against time they've already lost. The wealth-building flywheel takes years to spin up. The crazy part? Both people could have ended up rich. Person A got there slowly. Person B had the shortcuts. But shortcuts without discipline just become quick exits. Person A's mindset also includes learning from mistakes without shame. If they invested that $100 and it went down 20%, that's information. That's learning. Person B would see that same 20% dip as proof that investing doesn't work, at least not for them. So they'd pull the money and go back to spending it. The emotional control piece is huge. Successful investors know that markets naturally rise and fall. The people who panic sell during downturns significantly underperform compared to those who stay the course. Person A's mindset also shifts how they see other people's success. When they see someone with more money, they don't feel jealous or bitter. They feel curious. How did they do it? What can I learn? Person B sees success in others as a reminder of their own failure. They start to resent people who have more, even people they know. That resentment becomes a cage. The education piece matters too. Person A reads. They listen to podcasts. They follow people who are solving the problems they care about. They're always learning about money because money is a skill. Person B assumes they already know enough. They got a good job. They make decent money. What else is there to learn? This assumption costs them decades of wealth they could have built. Here's the thing nobody wants to hear. You can teach someone with $100 to become rich. And you can give someone with $100,000 permission to stay broke. The amount of money you start with matters less than what you do with it, less than how you think about it, less than whether you're willing to stay consistent when nobody's watching. Person A's ultimate advantage is that they see the $100 as possibility. They don't see it as too small to matter. They see it as the beginning of something. Person B's 100,000 is a trap disguised as a victory. It feels like winning when it's actually the beginning of a slow decay. After 40 years, Person A's trajectory has compound interest doing almost all the work. The last 10 years of growth is bigger than the first 30 years combined. Person B, if they haven't changed course, is still working, still stressed about money, still wondering where it all went. This isn't about shaming anyone. Rich people with poor mindsets exist. Poor people with rich mindsets exist. The mindset is learnable. It's not genetic. It's not locked in. The shift usually starts with one decision. One choice to see your surplus differently. Instead of, I can finally relax and enjoy this, you think, what if this kept growing? That one shift in perspective is the difference between ending up at $30,000 and $300,000. Between being dependent on your job forever and actually building something. So here's my question for you. Which person are you being with your money right now? When you get a bonus or some extra cash, what's your first instinct? Is it to spend it and feel better in this moment? Or to invest it and feel better for the next 30 years? Your entire financial future hangs on that one instinct, repeated 1,000 times. The good news? You can change this starting right now. It doesn't matter if you have $100 or $100,000. The mindset shift is free, and it compounds like everything else. It's not to spend it and feel good for a day. The real answer is almost always the same. Will this decision help my money grow? That question changes everything. It's the hinge the whole thing turns on. Wealthy people ask themselves a different question with every dollar. Not what can I buy, but what can this become? It's such a small mental shift, but that tiny difference in framing gets reinforced every single day across 100 little decisions. A person with a spending mindset sees $100 and thinks about what's for lunch, what's new on the shelf, what quick hit of satisfaction can I get? Someone with a wealth mindset sees the same $100 and asks, what can this grow into over time? The good news is, this isn't about having tons of money to start. It's about how you treat what you have right now. Someone investing $100 every month builds wealth. Someone with $100,000 and no system loses it. The mindset runs deeper than the balance. So let me ask you something different. How many people do you know who earn good money but always seem broke? And how many people do you know on modest incomes who are quietly building something real? The difference isn't the paycheck. It's the system they run in their head. The wealth-building mindset starts with a simple habit. When money comes in, part of it gets paid to your future first. Not your bills, not your wants. Your future self gets paid first, and what's left is what you live on. That's the whole architecture. This is where compounding comes in, and it's the real magic. When you invest $100 at even a modest return, it doesn't just sit there earning a few dollars. Those earnings start earning on themselves. Over years and decades, that 100 grows exponentially. It does the heavy lifting for you. Here's the math that flips perspective. If you invest $150 every single month for 20 years at a 6% return, you end up with way more than if you randomly throw large sums at it when you feel like it. Consistency beats size. Always. The wealthy understand something most people miss. Money is a tool that makes more money. They don't see 100 as something to use up this week. They see it as a seed. And seeds grow when you leave them alone and keep feeding them. But here's what stops most people dead. They think they need to have it all figured out before they start. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect amount, the perfect strategy. Meanwhile, nothing grows because nothing's in the ground yet. The only perfect moment is now. You don't need 100,000. You don't need to pick the world's best investment. You just need to start with what you have and let time and consistency do the work. The earlier you start, the more time the system has to work for you. So the difference between 100 and 100,000 isn't luck or destiny. It's the mindset that turns $1 into thinking about its future. Do that consistently enough, and 100 becomes 1,000. 1,000 becomes 10. It's not magic. It's just the system working exactly as designed.